Hello and welcome to We the People. Can freedom in the domain of social media, in the online world, be absolute? This is now a raging debate across India after there was enormous outpouring of public anger when two young girls in Maharashtra were arrested. What was their crime? Well, one of them argued on Facebook that the bandh that had taken place in Mumbai in the wake of Bal Thackeray's death was perhaps a disproportionate response, in her opinion, born at least partially out of fear. The other girl, her friend, simply clicked like on this comment. What followed, believe it or not, were the arrests of these two young women, citing a section of the information technology law that is deeply contentious. Raising the wider debate on the program today is this question. Is the technology law anti-freedom? Does it interfere with our right to freedom of speech and expression? Is it possible or even desirable to regulate the social media space? Let me start here. We have with us Mr. Satyanarayan, and he's, of course, being quite brave, I think, in taking the questions of what I imagine would be quite an angry audience, the Secretary in the Department of Information Technology. Mr. Satyanarayan, you're speaking on behalf of the ministry at a time when there's a huge public debate over one aspect of the law. And the biggest criticism, sir, is that it is so vague in the way that it is worded, that it leaves it open to gross misuse, as we saw with what happened in Maharashtra. So is there a serious concern now within the ministry that this law needs to either go or be amended?
Yeah. Let me first of all reiterate what the Union Minister, Mr. Kapil Sibal, said. He condemned the recent incident, and also in the same breath he reiterated the government's and the country's commitment to freedom of speech and expression. So now coming to the Section 66A,
yeah.
This has genesis in sometime in 1997 when the amendments were being contemplated and designed, and it took almost more than 10 years till it became law, that is in 2009.
That's the background, but now in the light of how we've seen it being used.
Now, whether it is the Section 66A or some other sections like 69, it's a kind of a balance that is required between freedom of expression and aspects like national security, public order, also the dignity and reputation of individuals. That was the intention behind. I'm not saying that
what has happened or the way it's been used has fulfilled that intention.
Yes. And of course, in the implementation in a country of 1.2 billion, the way it is understood and interpreted and implemented, there could be problems which need to be also recognized, and we perhaps need to enhance the awareness on this subject also. The government is open to suggestions for improvement in this space.
Okay.
And we definitely, in fact, there is also an institutional mechanism for that. That is the Cyber Regulations Advisory Committee. Now it has been revived, and we have the meeting on the 29th of this month.
It's good to hear that the government is open to changes, that there was an intention perhaps on the ground. That's not how it has unfolded. One of the proposals has been that no less than an Inspector General rank should have to clear if any arrests have to be made. But Kiran Karnik, as somebody who's a very eminent voice, been the president of NASSCOM, part of the expert committee, as the Secretary said, the larger question will not be resolved. Is an arrest a proportionate response to something that is offensive, that is menacing in character, that causes annoyance? I'm quoting actually verbatim from this Section 66A. And why should the current laws of the land, why should the penal code, why should the defamation laws, for example, why should those not be sufficient?
You know, when this law was first drafted, it was far more benign. And the somewhat sad thing to me is that it was a parliamentary committee which made the law far tighter in its over-enthusiasm to sort of make all protection. And I do want to say that undoubtedly this was under some degree of pressure from security agencies.
You're saying that when you as the member of the expert committee suggested changes, you did not want it to be such a harsh law as it is today?
If you look at the 2006 formulation before it went to the parliament, it was far more benign. It was not ideal, let me stress, but it was far more benign.
Okay.
And then things were added in the pretext, I would use that word advisory, of taking care of spam, of defamation, and that gave huge powers to the security mechanism. Now in our country, to the broader issue that you raised, we know that laws tend to get misused, not just by the police, but the police under pressure from various political parties. Governments of all kinds of hues across the country have misused these laws. And given this, I think to say that it is enough to inform the police, to educate them, is not adequate at all. We need to make sure that the law can't be misused, and the only way it can't be misused is if we take off draconian provisions that exist today, make it clearly defined, take off all these general things like,
offense and
if
annoyance.
you're upset with me and I react by sending you a mail which causes you annoyance, you can go to the police station and file an FIR against me. That's what that law says. And I would appeal, and I'm very happy with the minister's statement, also the statement by the Minister of State, that they're willing to look at this and amend it if necessary. I think we just need to take these off in the present context.
So awareness isn't enough. You've got to have a very specific law. The specifications have to make it difficult for any policeman to walk in and arrest somebody and handcuff them for something that causes mere annoyance. Kiran Bedi, can I get you in? And I ask you to speak today in three capacities, actually. Police officer, somebody who's active on Twitter, now also part of the Anna Hazare movement and party. Three different hats you're wearing here. Metaphorically. All of us on Twitter, ma'am, are aware of the fact that things are said and written that actually do cause deep offense. They're questions of integrity, they're often questions of abuse. You've faced it, I've faced it, almost everybody here has faced it. That's where we enter tricky terrain. Will it be enough to make the law extremely specific, or do we have to sit back and say technology's outpaced us, this is a space we actually can't control?
I think we need to bring a sense of responsibility. We need to strike a balance. I think we need to somehow define what is grossly offensive and what is menacing character. I think that's another definition. Some definitions said go back to the IPC, but there are many other words which have been used in the law which we don't find a definition, which means we will go back to the dictionary definition, which means so much of litigation. I personally think that's one area which we need to circumscribe, but I know the kind of offensive Twitters we get. They're very abusive. But we don't have the time to take the matter to court, and it's very, very humiliating sometimes. We need to find a balance, which is not in this. It's just one-sided. This is exactly what happened in 498A. 498, if you remember, immediately when a complaint made by a woman and a policeman was scared, abhi arrest karo, kyunki wo kahenge ek shikayat. But somehow over the years, through court judgments, through police interventions, through policy and training, a balance has been struck and rules got evolved and a senior investigation came in and a balance has been struck somewhere. So I think that kind of balance is yet to come. It's evolving. This is happening with New York police. This has happened with London riots, Occupy streets. Even there it's evolving.
So nascent sort of social media here, we're still finding our way through it as to how to respond to a society, how to establish a code. Now, before we hear from the story of one of the young girls who got arrested, I just want to take this to Rahul Narvikar, who's the spokesperson of the Shiv Sena. And Rahul, this is the first time that, in a sense, the girl who got arrested and the Shiv Sena is face-to-face on the same platform. And I hope you'll start by assuring them that they are safe here to speak their mind.
Well, absolutely.
Well, I won't let anything happen on my show, I can tell you that.
Although it's the responsibility of the government to assure safety of every citizen, but I can definitely do that and vouch for that on behalf of my party.
Okay, so let me then ask you, are you apologetic about what happened? There is a very distinct impression that in the aftermath of Bal Thackeray's death, it was not possible for anyone in Maharashtra to express an alternative opinion to the eulogies that were pouring in. And if they did, then they were punished, and this was the message that was sent to them. And that is completely undemocratic.
Well, Barkha, before I start, let me clarify something. Number one, I'm not here to defend any individual. I'm here to put across the views of my party.
Okay.
After the demise of our departed leader, though our executive president, Shri Uddhavji Thackeray, was in extreme personal grief, he did come out before the media and the people at large and appeal to everyone and the party cadre that there should be absolute maintenance of law and order. And no one should, the best way of paying homage to our departed leader would be to maintain law and order. Insofar as the complaint is concerned, this was filed by an individual. What followed after that was the action of the police and the judiciary. So I don't think the action of the police or the action of the judiciary can be defended by an individual or a party.
What about the vandalism and the atmosphere of fear?
Coming to the violence and the so-called vandalism.
Why so-called?
I think
there was a clinic that was vandalized.
The party has already made its stand clear. We have not promoted or incited any kind of violence.
So do you regret the vandalism?
The individuals who committed,
they're members of your party, they're workers of your party,
who have alleged to have committed this violence, probably have done this out of, you know, that in India we've seen and sudden and outrage, a sudden provocation and
so they weren't
expression
when they attacked the
of
clinic.
emotions, and therefore this would be difficult for anyone to explain. Like I've said it earlier, and any person who has a stake in democracy will not resort to any kind of violence.
Yes. From what I understand from this, at the time at which the clinic was attacked, those gentlemen were not Shiv Sainiks. They had temporarily revoked their, and the party does not take any responsibility for the violence caused.
The FIR, if I have understood it correctly and if I have read it correctly, it's registered against unknown people.
The police in Maharashtra say that these 10 gentlemen are workers of the Shiv Sena.
The police say that. The investigation is under process.
Sir, the police say that.
Can you please show me the FIR corrected copy where
so they were not Shiv Sainik.
Okay, let me frame. Okay, Rahul, let's not shout. If it is proved in the course of investigation that these 10 men, vandals, who did this to the uncle of one of the girls were workers of your party, will the party take action against them? Will the Shiv Sena distance themselves from these workers?
The party's stand is absolutely clear. We have condemned every kind of violence. If these people are guilty and if they have committed a crime, the law enforcing agencies will deal with it, and they are the appropriate people to deal with it.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.